Alright, so that when it comes to Porter, Porter is the most reputed author who has extensively written on strategy, right? So that from his end, from the Harvard Business School point of view, the they advocate that formal process that approaches strategic analysis very systematical manner, right? So they want to formulate the strategy in a more systematic way. Whereas some others, while others support less formal process, right? A few argue that the world is changing, so that companies must depend on instinct of their senior executives and evolve new position on the fly in order to move rapidly, right? So that these people who are go against to the Harvard study formulation, they would say that the environment is changing very rapidly, so that the managers or the executive officers of the organization who have the kind of knowledge or the or what's going on, so that according to their depending on their instinct, so the senior executives can evolve the new position on the fly in order to move rapidly for the organization life. So that when it comes to the Harvard School of Thought, the formal approach to business strategy analysis and development is often associated with the Harvard Business School, right? So that that is derived from the Professor Michael E. Porter's book called Competitive Strategy, published in 1980. Right? How many years back? So almost 40 years old now, right? But still very rapidly, very heavily utilized by every business executive or the manager. Now it's 60th printing. I think pretty much more than that by now. Competitive strategy has been the best-selling strategy textbook throughout the past 2 decades. Porter's approach is well known, and it will allow us to examine how models that are well established among those familiar with the strategic management literature, right? So that when it comes to subject called strategic management, Porter's approach is very well known, right? And in the formal approach of to business strategy analysis and development is often associated with the Harvard Business School. That is derived from the Harvard Professor Michael E. Porter's book Competitive Strategy, published in 1980s and now 60th print. They say Competitive Strategy has been the best-selling strategy book throughout the past 2 decades. Porter's approach is well known and will allow us to examine some models that are well established among those familiar with the strategic management, right? So that so when it comes to Michael Porter, he is one of the very well-known author and the scholar, and he is a professor from the Harvard University. And here, when it comes to the Professor Porter, his first degree is in aerospace and mechanical engineering, right? Even though he has written extensively on economics and the business strategy, his first degree is in aerospace and mechanical engineering, right? Aerospace, the rocket science, right? So that he got his MBA and the PhD from the Harvard University later on, and the PhD is on business economics, right? And he authored 18 books and numerous articles. There's so many different articles on the HBR. So some of them I have shared with you. And 6-time winner Vacancy Award, and he's a professor from William Lawrence University at Harvard Business School, right? So that here I have given you two hyperlinks. One is with LinkedIn article with all the interviews of the Professor Porter, right? So how we look at this the technological development and how that is influence on the organizations, and what are the different strategies that the business organization has to adapt it. So covering that LinkedIn article. Whereas in the right hand side, you would see that what do you call that, a video clip. So where he has done what you call the keynote address in India. Yeah, again he is talking about the strategy, right? So if you have free time, please go through this. It's really important, right? So that when it comes to defining the strategy, Porter defines business strategy as a broader formula for how business is going to compete and what its goals should be and how policies will be needed to carry out these goals. Like, right, we have mentioned it earlier. So that in this the defining process, right? So we have different phases, right? First one, if you take the first phase, the formal strategy process begins with the definition of where the company is now. So we need to look at where we position right now, right? What its current strategy is, and the assumptions that the company managers commonly make about the company's current position, strengths and weaknesses, competitors, and the industry trends. So these are the very important information that you have need to gather, right? In the phase one. The most large companies have formal strategy and already gone through this exercise several times. So when it comes to big organizations, they have very formal exercise of formulating the strategy, right? So that they have been through several different times of this stage. Indeed, most large companies have a strategy committee that constantly monitors the company's strategy. So that when it comes to very large organizations, like, so they have these strategy committees that they constantly monitor the company's strategy. They will look at, so what should be the company's strategy like more often. So the second phase, so determine what happening in the uh, what happening what's happening in the environment. So that we have to look into what's really going through in the environment. In the second, that is what we call second phase. In the second phase, the photo strategy process. Here we say the middle box in the figure 2.1. You will not find the figure 2.1, but of course, when you go to slide number 8, the extreme right picture, right here we have number 2, what is happening in the environment. So that is what you have to refer, right? Earlier we have discussed slide number 8 now. So there you have this picture in place, right? So now we are in slide number 13. So that you need to go to slide number 8. If you go to slide number 8, the left hand picture would indicate this figure 2.1, right? The team developing the strategy considers what is happening in the environment. So what is happening in the environment? We can say we have mentioned first one, identify the key factors for success and failure in the industry, right? That is one fact. Identify the capabilities and limitations of the competitors. So we need to identify the capabilities and limitations of the competitor. How we can do that? So we need to do a research, right? We need to see the competitor and gather all the information. Then identify the likely government and the societal change. So what are the, we need to identify the likely government and the societal change. So what's really happening in the political environment. Then identify the company's strengths and weaknesses relative to the competitors. This is what we have to do, right, in order to do the determine what's happening in the environment, right? So the in effect, the term ignores the assumptions the company makes at the moment and gathers intelligence that will allow them to formulate current statement and environment constraints and opportunities facing all the companies in their industry, right? In effect, the team ignores the assumptions the company makes at the moment and gather intelligence, so that if they ignore the what you call that assumptions of the managers of the company what they need to do is to go and gather intelligence. They need to do a research, right? You need research that will allow them to formulate a current statement of the environmental concerns and opportunities facing at the companies in the industry. They gather information and then they will come to conclusion of identify the key factors for success and failure in the industry, identify the capabilities and limitations of the competitors. For that, they need to gather the information and identify the likely government and societal change. What are the political and the societal change that would occur, and identify the company's strengths and weaknesses relative to the competitors. Right. So those things has to be done in the phase two. Then uh, Porter's emphasizes the essence of formulating right. Where is phase three? Phase two is here. Where's phase three? Huh? All right. So we don't have the. I'm sorry, the PowerPoint slides which I have uploaded have been changed, so that there is a phase three, right? So there we say phase three determining the way strategy for the company, right? In the phase three we say during the third phase, the strategy team compares the company's existing strategy, right? So they compare the existing strategy with the latest analysis of what's happening in the environment, right? So their strategy, they compare that strategy with the what's happening in the environment. The team generates a number of scenarios or alternate courses of action that company could pursue. So that by looking at the changes in the environment right now, and they develop certain alternative courses of action, right, with regard to their strategy. So that is basically what organization has to do in the phase three in determining the new strategy for company, right? I'm sorry that is missing from this slide. I don't know who is going, who are deleting these slides from my presentation. Uh, then we have Porter's model of competition. Porter emphasizes that the essence of formulating competitive strategy is relating to its environment. One of the best known diagrams in Porter's competitive strategy is one we have one we will illustrate in the below figure, right? Here the next we have that figure. I think you can read it, right? So that there you find these five forces analysis, right? So what are these five forces, right? So in the middle you have the most important one, the industry, competitor, and what is the force created by that in terms of rivalry among these industry players, right? Next we have from the new entrant, you have the threat of new entrants, right? There may be so many new organizations who come to your industry. So by the way, what do you mean by industry? Just in the sense, the exactly similar organization to offer same kind of products and the service. For example, when we say the hotel industry, who the hoteliers, they provide exactly the same kind of products and the services, right? If we say health industry, exactly the same kind of organization provides the similar products and the services. Right? That is what we call industry, right? So that there may be new entrants to the industry. If we take, for example, in the hotel industry, there may be so many new hotels built up in a year, and these new entrants pose the threat to existing hotels. Right? Then we have the buyers. How do they, create what you call that threat to us? So how they create some kind of a challenge or the threat. So here they say bargaining power of the buyer. So if we offer our service to limited number of buyers, like let's say okay, 3 or 4 big buyers with you dependent. So in that sense, bargaining power of buyers is very high. Why? They can dictate the terms of price, quality, quantity, and so on and so forth. Whereas if you have the hundred different buyers out there, thousands of buyers, so they don't have that kind of a bargaining power. Why? When one buyer is not buying, we have thousands of other alternative buyers in the market, right? So then we have the substitutes. Substitutes are the products similar to our offering, right? So they set set of substitutes, right? So that's again a threat. And again the suppliers, bargaining power of supplier. So we depend on one supplier. Of course, his bargaining power is high. But whereas if we depend on 100 different suppliers, right, their bargaining power is quite low. Why? Because there are 100 alternatives for us to depend on. So that this basically these five forces decide the profitability of the organization in any industry, right? If these five forces are influence on the profitability of your operations in the industry as well as the, the what you call the entrance, right? Whether it is how do you call it? Uh, Whether it is easy for you to enter the industry or not, like, right? This is that is why this five forces analysis is quite important for any organization. Just to look at phase three, determining the new strategy for company. During the third phase, the strategy, uh, right? Phase three. During the phase three, the strategy team compares the company's existing strategy with the latest analysis of what's happening in the environment. The team generates a number of scenarios or alternate course of actions that company could pursue, right? So when it comes to Porter's model, right, here we say Porter emphasizes that the essence of formulating company strategies relating to its environment. So that is what he emphasized, right? The strategy has to be relation to company to its environment. One of the best known diagrams in the Porter's competitive strategy is one we have illustrated in the below figure, right? Here, the next one. So these five forces, we call that five forces theory of Porter. Right, these are of the organization and interest to the industry, right? So that then we have the industry analysis. Porter identifies five changes in the competitive environment. As earlier figure indicates, Porter identifies five changes in the competitive that Porter identifies five changes in the competitive environment that can force the company to adjust its business strategy. The heart of the business competition, of course, is the set of rival companies that comprise an industry. The company and its competitors are represented by the middle. So that in the previous here it says in the middle you have the industry competitors and the uh, right industry competitors and intensity of rivals. That is what Porter mentioned here, right? So in the middle figure you find this industry competitors and the intensity of the rivals. Like the heart of the business competition, of course, is the set of rival companies in the comprise an industry. The company and its competitors are represented by the middle, right? In the uh, here you have the very clear picture of it, right? And when it comes to the Because we among the existing competitors, right? That means within the industry from all these competitors. And when it comes to this set of new entrants, so what are these set of new or what causes this set of new entrants? So that means the barriers to entry. So what are the barriers to entry?